To make them see you as a luxury and not an option, it starts with knowing your worth, truly, deeply, and unapologetically.
This isn't about arrogance or ego, it's about unshakable clarity in your identity.
When you understand your value, you stop trying to convince others of it. You stop auditioning for roles in lives that don't even deserve your presence. You stop shrinking, softening, or editing parts of yourself to fit into spaces that were never built to hold you. Knowing your worth means no longer settling for crumbs when you were born to feast. It means walking into every room without needing to announce your power, because it speaks before you do. You no longer rely on external applause to feel significant. The validation isn't in someone else's eyes, it's in your reflection. When you believe you are enough, not in a loud, overcompensating way, but in a steady, grounded presence, you begin to move differently. You no longer chase. You attract. You no longer beg. You decide. This is the foundation of being seen as a luxury. Think about it. Luxury is not something explained, it is understood. It is not available everywhere or to everyone, and yet its value is not debated. That's what happens when you embody your worth. People don't question your presence, they reevaluate their readiness for it. But none of that can begin unless you first do the internal work. You must dig beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, beneath the programming that made you feel like you needed to be chosen to matter. The truth is, when you don't know your worth, you hand your power to people who were never meant to hold it. You allow situations to define you. You wait for permission to be great, and in doing so, you unknowingly place yourself as an option. But when you rise from that, when you recognize that your time, your energy, your attention, your presence are all valuable currencies, you stop spending them recklessly. You become more intentional. You become more discerning, and others feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they know it. You are not ordinary. You are not replaceable. You are not waiting to be picked. You are the one who picks. This shift, this inner alignment, is where everything begins to change. Because the world responds not to your appearance, not to your titles, but to the energy you radiate. And that energy is born from self-awareness, self-respect, and self-love. Know your worth, not as a slogan, not as a temporary high, but as a non-negotiable truth. Once you do, you won't have to force people to treat you like a luxury. You'll become it, and everything around you will adjust accordingly. Set unshakable standards, and everything around you will begin to shift. Standards are not about arrogance or control. They are about clarity. They are declarations of how you expect to be treated, how you choose to live, and what you refuse to tolerate. When you have standards, you are not making demands. You are making decisions. Decisions that reflect a deep and unwavering level of self-respect. People often confuse flexibility with weakness, but there is nothing admirable about constantly adjusting yourself to accommodate disrespect, inconsistency, or low effort. When your standards are loose, your life becomes chaotic. You find yourself explaining, justifying, overextending, just to maintain connections that should have never been allowed in your space to begin with. But when you stand firm in your standards, you filter out the noise. You stop entertaining things that don't align. You stop making exceptions that cost you your peace. You stop being accessible to anything that falls below what you've decided is worthy of you. Luxury doesn't negotiate its value. It doesn't go on clearance to be accepted. It doesn't lower its expectations to increase its popularity, and neither should you. Because when you lower your standards, you don't just lower your experiences, you lower your energy. You teach people that they can get more from you by giving less. You train them to see you as a convenience, not a commitment. That's how you become an option. But when you enforce your standards with quiet strength and no apology, you change the equation. You shift from being someone they can have when it's easy to someone they must rise to meet. Having high standards isn't about being hard to love. It's about refusing to be loved in a way that feels cheap. It's about creating boundaries that protect your time, your heart, and your soul. It's about knowing that the right people won't be intimidated by your standards, they'll be inspired by them. And those who walk away, let them. Standards don't scare away the right people, they only expose the wrong ones. Your standards set the tone. They decide the quality of your relationships, your conversations, your opportunities. They dictate the level of respect you receive and the type of energy you attract. So hold them high. Not out of pride, but out of purpose. Because when you live from a place of strong, unapologetic standards, you're not just seen, you're remembered, you're not just considered, you're valued. And slowly, powerfully, you stop being seen as an option. You become the exception. You become the standard. You become the luxury. Mastering self-control is one of the most powerful transformations you will ever experience. It is the quiet force that separates the rare from the common, the extraordinary from the easily replaced. In a world that thrives on reaction, on impulse, urgency, and emotional chaos, self-control becomes a form of elegance. It becomes your edge. When you learn to control your emotions, your responses, your availability, you stop being manipulated by circumstances and people. You are no longer a puppet to external validation or a prisoner to fleeting moods. Instead, you become rooted, anchored in your own authority. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings, it means your feelings no longer control you. You can feel everything without letting everything shake you. That's strength. That's rarity. Luxury doesn't move in desperation. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't chase. And it never begs to be noticed. The same applies to you when you truly master self-control. You stop reaching out to prove your worth. You stop responding to disrespect just to make a point. You stop over-explaining to people who have already decided not to understand. You begin to protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Every time you choose peace over reaction, grace over anger, restraint over drama, you elevate your presence. You teach the world that you are not accessible to chaos, that you are not emotionally cheap, that you are not for everyone. This level of control also gives you the ability to walk away. And that alone is a form of unmatched power. The ability to walk away from anything that doesn't honor your value, without emotional collapse or theatrical closure, is the mark of someone who knows they are the prize. You don't beg for clarity. You don't force yourself into places where alignment is absent. You simply leave, with grace, with dignity, with your soul intact. Self-control creates mystery. And mystery creates allure. When people cannot predict your every move, when they don't know what triggers you or what you'll tolerate, they begin to treat you with more caution, more curiosity, more respect. Not because you've demanded it, but because your energy has required it. You become untouchable, not in the sense of being distant, but in the sense of being immune to the games and illusions that most people fall for. Control yourself, and you control the narrative. Control yourself, and you protect your throne. Let others run wild trying to be seen. You, in your stillness, will be remembered. Let others react to everything. They will exhaust themselves while you rise in silence. Because luxury never needs to announce itself. It only needs to remain composed. Let your self-control be the quiet fire that sets you apart and makes it impossible for anyone to ever see you as just an option. Presence is power. Not performance, not persuasion, presence. When you walk into a space fully aligned with who you are, without the need to entertain, impress, or convince, something shifts. People feel you before they understand you. You don't need noise to be noticed. You don't need to prove your worth. Your stillness does the speaking. There is a silent magnetism in those who are deeply comfortable with themselves. They do not seek attention, they command it without effort. They don't perform for approval. They exist in their truth, and that truth radiates. This is the essence of luxury. It's not about being loud or flashy. It's about depth. It's about presence that lingers after you've left the room. That's the kind of energy that makes people pause. That's the kind of presence that sets a new standard. When you rely on performance, you build connections based on conditions. You show parts of yourself that you think will be accepted, praised, or loved. But over time, that act becomes exhausting. And the people drawn to that act? They weren't really drawn to you. They were drawn to the image you curated for their comfort. And once that performance ends, they leave. That's what happens when you're an option, a moment, a phase. But presence, that cannot be replaced. It's felt, not fabricated. It can't be copied or mimicked. It's real. To cultivate presence, you have to strip away the layers that were designed for approval. You have to stop being performative in your confidence and start being rooted in it. You have to move from a place of internal knowing, not external reaction. You don't rush to speak just to fill the silence. You speak when there's something meaningful to say. You don't move in urgency to be chosen. You trust that what's meant for you will recognize you, even in your stillness. Presence is about being fully in your body, your mind, and your spirit. It's about being grounded in your own energy, even when the world around you is spinning. It's about knowing that you have nothing to prove, because your existence is already enough. And when that truth settles into your being, you rise without forcing. You attract without chasing. You inspire without trying. You become a standard, unshakable, unmissable. Let others perform. Let others exhaust themselves for attention. You simply be, fully, authentically, powerfully. Because when you prioritize presence over performance, you step into a different frequency, one that only a few operate on. One that doesn't allow you to be seen as an option. You become a rare experience, a presence remembered, a luxury that leaves an imprint on every soul it encounters. Refuse to compete, and you elevate your value instantly. Competition is for things that are common, interchangeable, easy to replicate. Luxury doesn't compete. It stands alone, not because it's arrogant, but because it's in its own category. That is the mindset you must adopt. Not to prove you're better, but to prove to yourself that you're enough, without comparison. When you feel the urge to compete, to outshine, to compare your path to someone else's, that's a signal you've stepped away from your own power. Because true value never looks sideways. It looks inward. It knows that no one can do what you do the way you do it. And the moment you internalize that truth, you exit the race. You stop trying to outperform, outshine, or outprove. You simply outgrow. Refusing to compete doesn't mean you don't strive for excellence. It means you strive without the need to be measured against someone else. You build in silence. You grow in confidence. You operate in your own time, in your own lane. And in that lane, there is no rush, no pressure, only purpose. When people sense that you are not desperate to win their attention, that you are not moving from lack, they begin to see you differently. You are not playing their game. You are not following their rules. You are operating in your own world, and that world holds weight. Think about what luxury really is.
It doesn't try to keep up. It doesn't react to trends.
It sets the tone. It creates the mood. It becomes the reference point others follow. That's how you must treat your energy, your gifts, your presence. Stop looking at who they choose and wondering what you're missing. Stop trying to adjust yourself to fit into spaces built for lesser versions of you. When you refuse to compete, you become undeniable because people sense that they can't replace you and they can't compare you. This mindset frees you. It liberates you from needing to be liked, from constantly scanning for approval. You stop overperforming. You stop hustling for your place in rooms that don't deserve you. You start building your own table, your own standard, your own vibration. And those who are meant to align with you, they will rise to meet you there, not because you fought for them, but because your authenticity called them. So let others compete. Let others chase validation, trends, applause. You stay rooted, stay elevated. Be the one who doesn't need to prove anything because your energy already speaks volumes. That's how you stop being an option. You become a category of one. You become irreplaceable. You become the luxury they can't access by comparison. They can only experience by elevation. Emotional discipline is the quiet strength that separates those who react from those who reign. It is not about suppressing how you feel. It's about learning how to hold your power in the presence of pressure. When you master your emotions, you become dangerous in the most elegant way. You are no longer at the mercy of triggers, disrespect, or inconsistency. You do not crumble under chaos. You rise above it. There is nothing more magnetic than someone who refuses to be shaken by the world around them. While others are consumed by drama, pulled into arguments, or trapped in cycles of reaction, you become the one who chooses peace over pettiness, silence over shouting, and intention over impulse. That's not weakness. That's dominance. Emotional discipline is the foundation of true composure, and composure is what luxury feels like in human form. The moment you stop allowing your emotions to be dictated by others, you reclaim your power. You stop sending long messages trying to be understood. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. You stop needing closure from people who never offered clarity. You learn to sit with your emotions without letting them control your direction. That level of internal stability makes people pause, because most are used to chaos. Most are used to emotional volatility. But when you remain grounded, when you are unmoved by manipulation or mood swings, you create a different kind of presence. People test you to see where your limits are, not with words but with actions, inconsistency and disrespect. When you respond with calm, unwavering energy, not indifference but strength, they begin to understand that you are not emotionally cheap. You are not someone they can sway with guilt, provoke with silence, or manipulate with attention. You are clear, you are centered, and that clarity makes you untouchable in the best way. Emotional discipline also means knowing when to walk away without resentment, when to stay silent without bitterness, and when to respond with grace instead of ego. It's a power that doesn't scream. It whispers through your actions. It teaches others that your emotions are not toys to be played with, that access to your energy is a privilege, not a right. And when you carry yourself that way, people no longer treat you as optional. They recognize the rarity, the elegance, the restraint, the depth. This doesn't happen overnight. Emotional discipline is built in moments of silence, in times of disappointment, in situations where you could react, but choose not to. Every time you hold your center, you become more powerful, more poised, more irreplaceable. Because in a world addicted to chaos, the one who holds their peace becomes the prize. That's how you rise. That's how you become the luxury no one can afford to take lightly. Be selective, not available. The most valuable things in life are not easily accessed, not because they're arrogant, but because they understand their worth. Your time, your energy, your presence, these are not things to be handed out freely to anyone who shows interest. The more available you are, the more people begin to see you as convenient, and convenience is the first step to being taken for granted. Selectiveness is not about playing games. It's about protecting your space with intentionality. When you're available to everyone, you dilute your power. You begin to attract those who are drawn to ease, not excellence, those who are looking to consume, not to contribute. But when you become more discerning with your presence, something shifts. People start to notice the difference. You are no longer everywhere, and that absence creates demand. You are no longer constantly accessible, and that mystery creates intrigue. You are no longer always saying yes, and that restraint creates respect. Being selective means understanding that not everyone deserves access to you. Not every message requires a response. Not every invitation needs your presence. Not every opportunity aligns with your energy. You begin to assess not based on surface value, but on deeper resonance. Does this person see my worth, or do they only see what they can get? Does this situation nourish me, or does it drain me? These are the questions that guide a selective soul. Luxury is rare, and what is rare is respected. You don't see it in every store, on every corner, in every hand. Its absence is part of its allure. That's the same truth you carry when you stop being overly accessible. You no longer move from a place of lack, trying to prove yourself, to be accepted, to be chosen. You move from a place of confidence, choosing what aligns and walking away from what doesn't, without guilt, without explanation. People may question your distance. Let them. They may mislabel your boundaries as arrogance. Let them. The ones who matter won't be threatened by your selectiveness. They'll be drawn to it. Because deep down, we all know that what's rare has weight. What's exclusive has energy. What's not for everyone becomes something unforgettable. Your availability should be earned, not expected. Let your presence be a reward, not a routine. Let your attention be something people rise to receive. When you make it clear that you are not easily reached, not emotionally open to everyone, not energetically exposed to just anyone, you raise the value of your presence. And when you raise the value of your presence, you stop being treated like an option. You become the exception, the standard, the one they don't want to lose, because they know they may not find it again. Invest in your evolution relentlessly and without apology. Growth is the ultimate separator. It's what turns potential into power and value into rarity. When you dedicate yourself to becoming the highest, sharpest, most aligned version of yourself, you automatically elevate above the noise. You create a gap, a distance between who you were and who you are becoming, that only those who are also evolving can cross. This kind of growth is not for approval. It's not to impress anyone. It's about becoming so deeply rooted in your truth, so refined in your thinking, so elevated in your habits, that anything or anyone that doesn't match that level becomes incompatible. When you evolve, you no longer force connections. You no longer chase understanding. You no longer fit yourself into rooms where you've outgrown the ceiling. You simply rise and allow what is aligned to find you at your level.
Evolution isn't loud, it happens in silence.
In the discipline of daily choices, in the books you read, the boundaries you enforce, the environments you enter or exit. It's in the way you talk to yourself, the way you heal instead of hide, the way you learn instead of linger. While others stay comfortable in familiar patterns, you move forward, quietly, consistently, intentionally. That consistency builds a presence that can't be faked. It becomes obvious to others that you are not who you used to be, and more importantly, you're not someone they can treat like before. Luxury is born out of refinement, and refinement comes from evolving beyond mediocrity. You don't need to say you've changed. Your energy will declare it, your results will prove it, your standards will reflect it.
And those who once had easy access to you will either grow to meet you or fall away in silence. Let them.
Because you were not meant to stay static to make others feel secure. You were meant to stretch, to become. And in becoming, you separate, not in pride, but in alignment. The truth is, you can't become a luxury experience while clinging to a survival mindset. You can't elevate and still be available to every distraction, every outdated version of yourself. Growth requires letting go. It requires discomfort. It demands vision. But the reward is everything. It's freedom. It's clarity. It's power. You begin to move differently, speak differently, choose differently. You don't just live, you lead, quietly, unapologetically, powerfully. So invest in your evolution, not someday, but now. Become so deeply committed to your growth that staying the same feels like a betrayal. Because when you rise, when you evolve with intention and purpose, you stop being an option in anyone's life. You become the standard they measure everything else by. The one they watch, study, and remember. The one who made transformation look like power and made power look like grace. Silence becomes your superpower when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself, defend your value, or respond to everything that tries to provoke you.
In a world obsessed with noise, with constant validation, with immediate reactions, silence is disruptive.
It makes people uncomfortable because they can't read it, control it, or manipulate it. That's exactly why it's powerful. Silence is not emptiness, it's presence, it's awareness. It's the choice to observe instead of react, to protect your energy instead of wasting it. When you become intentional with your words and guarded with your responses, you shift from being predictable to becoming unreadable. And the unreadable are respected because when people don't know where they stand with you, they begin to tread carefully. They begin to think before they speak. They begin to approach you with more awareness. That's the influence silence creates. It's not loud, but it echoes. You don't need to explain why you're pulling back. You don't need to justify your standards, your distance, your transformation. The people who truly see you won't need the explanation, and the ones who do, they were never really listening to understand. They were listening to react, to access, to consume.
Silence protects you from those people.
It draws a line they can't cross unless they come with clarity, with respect, with genuine intention. When you stop responding to every text, every call, every challenge to your boundaries, you begin to build mystery. And mystery is luxury. What is always explained, always available, always loud, becomes forgettable. But what holds back, what leaves space, what remains calm in the storm, that becomes unforgettable. People are drawn to what they cannot easily access, to what they cannot fully decode. Your silence can say more than your words ever could, if it's rooted in confidence, not avoidance. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak with precision. You respond when it matters. You express yourself when it's aligned.
You disengage from anything that seeks to pull you down into chaos, drama, or desperation.
That choice makes you magnetic. It tells the world, my peace is not up for negotiation. My energy is not a playground. My presence is not background noise. You teach people how to treat you, not just by what you say, but by what you don't.
Silence also gives you clarity.
It gives you space to reflect, to heal, to hear your own voice above the noise of the world. And when you operate from that stillness, You stop being emotionally reactive. You become strategically powerful. That's how leaders move. That's how standards are maintained. That's how luxury is preserved. So use silence not as a shield, but as a statement. Let it be the boundary that speaks when words are unnecessary. Let it be the space that separates you from the noise. Because the more you master silence, the more you control perception. And when you control perception, you stop being an option. You become the one they don't forget, the one they can't read, the one they come correct for or not at all.